Hello everybody and welcome to this new coding tutorial. Today we are going to learn about Sapling. In a previous tutorial we learned how to use Sapling in a smart contract with Lego. In this tutorial you are going to learn how to use Sapling from the front end using Taquito. Taquito provides different tools that you can use in order to enable Sapling in your front end application and interact with the Sapling contract. Just for a refresher, Sapling is a protocol that enables anonymous transactions on the Tezos blockchain. And now we are going to see how to use it with Taquito. The first thing to do is to import all the tools that we're going to need to interact with the Sapling contract. First, we are going to import the Tezos toolkit, as you generally do when you write a Tezos application with Taquito. We are also going to need the RPC read adapter from the Taquito package. The second package that we need is the Sapling package from Taquito, from which we are going to need the Sapling toolkit and the in-memory spending key. And the last package that we need is the RPC package, where we are going to import the RPC client class. The first thing to do is to create an instance of the Tezos toolkit. So we call new Tezos toolkit and we pass the URL of the RPC node that we are going to use. After that, we need a read provider. So we are going to create an instance of the RPC read adapter class by passing an RPC client with the RPC URL of the node that we want to use for our application. To finish with this step, we are going to create a pointer to the Sapling contract by using the contract@add method on the Tezos toolkit instance and by passing the address of the Sapling contract that we are going to use in our application. Now we are going to create the spending key that we are going to use with Taquito. The spending key is the key that you are going to use to spend tokens in the Sapling contract. So it's very important to use it safely. And you just create it by using the from mnemonic method on the in-memory spending key and by passing your mnemonic as a parameter. After all of that has been set up, we are ready to create an instance of the Sapling toolkit and interact with the Sapling contract. We are just going to create an instance of Sapling toolkit and we need to pass three parameters. The first one is an object with a property called Sapling signer where we pass our in-memory spending key. The second one is also an object with the address of the Sapling contract and the memo size. And the last one is the read provider. Now we are ready to use the Sapling toolkit to perform different actions on the Sapling pool in the Sapling contract. For example, we can retrieve the Sapling balance associated with the spending key that we used earlier. To do that, we are going to use one of the methods available on the Sapling toolkit. This one's called getSaplingTransactionViewer and is going to return a transaction viewer. We can then use the getBalance method on the transaction viewer to retrieve the balance. It is also possible to use the transaction viewer to retrieve a list of all the transactions that a certain address in the Sapling pool performed. In that case, you would call the get incoming and outgoing transactions method on the transaction viewer and it's going to return the history of all the transactions. Now let's see how we're going to prepare a shielded transaction. A shielded transaction is a transaction where you send tokens to a Sapling pool. In order to do that, we are also going to use the Sapling toolkit that we created earlier, and then we are going to need the address of the account that's going to receive the tokens. In order to get that address, we are going to use the in-memory spending key and the method on it called getSaplingViewingKeyProvider. This is going to return an object where we can call the getAddress method to have the address. After that, we can use the Sapling toolkit instance and call the prepare shielded transaction method on it that takes one parameter, an array of shielded transactions. Every transaction is represented with an object with three properties. The first one is to, so the address of the recipient of the tokens, amount, the amount of tokens that we're sending, and the memo. Then it's a regular contract call and we are going to use Taquito to do it. We have the pointer to the Sapling contract that we are targeting and we call the entry point that's going to receive the shielded transactions, and we don't forget to pass an amount of 3 Tez with the transaction. After that, we just wait for the confirmation and we can get the hash of the operation. After sending tokens to a Sapling contract, you probably want to send the tokens from the contract to an address. To do that, we are going to create an unshielded transaction. An unshielded transaction is a transaction that sends tokens out of a Sapling pool to an account on-chain. To do that, we are going to use the Sapling toolkit and the prepare unshielded transaction method on it. The method requires one argument, an object to represent the unshielded transaction. The object has two properties, a to property with the address of the account that's going to receive the tokens and the amount of tokens that you want to send. After the transaction is prepared, we are going to make a contract call to the Sapling contract and include the Unshielded transaction. Then we just wait for the confirmation of the operation and we can get the hash. The last type of transaction that we can do in a Sapling pool is a Sapling transaction. A Sapling transaction is just a transfer of tokens between two addresses within the Sapling pool. In order to prepare such a transaction, we are going to use the prepare Sapling transaction method on the Sapling toolkit, and we are going to pass an array of transactions. Every transaction is represented by an object with three properties. The to property is the Sapling address within the Sapling pool, so that's why the address starts with ZET, an amount, which represents the amount of tokens that we are going to transfer, and then the memo. After that, we just make a regular contract call to send the transaction to the Sapling contract, and we wait for the confirmation before we can get the hash. And that's it. Now you know how to make 3 transactions in a Sapling contract: a shielded transaction to send tokens to the Sapling pool, an unshielded transaction to send the tokens out of the Sapling pool, and a Sapling transaction to transfer tokens within the Sapling pool. All of that is handled by Taquito, and it's very easy to use with the Sapling package. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.